to me, really, like that's what, everyone's trying to get after is the distribution to non-crypto native users. And when you look at like Circle, what Circle's trying to do, what Tether's trying to do, Circle with their payments network, we already have that established. What we're lacking is the liquidity and the on-chain sort of availability of PYUSD, so that when we go to our merchant base and they all want to use, they're all talking to us about stablecoins now. We can suggest and we can effectively like have products around PYUSD support because there's liquidity out there for them to on and off ramp in the ecosystem.
Welcome to Tokenized, the show focused on stablecoins and the institutional adoption of tokenized real-world assets. My name is Andrew Van Aken, data scientist at Artemis, a crypto analytics startup. I'd like to welcome you to Stablecoin Stats, a monthly show on Tokenized podcast feed dedicated to stats behind the tokenized stablecoin market. Joining me today, as always, is my colleague and friend, Anthony Yim, co-founder at Artemis. Anthony, how are you, sir?
Very good. A bit jet lagged, but I am hanging in there with lots and lots of coffee.
And for the first time ever, David Weber will be our first official guest on Stablecoin Stats. David Weber is the head of PYUSD ecosystem at PayPal. Sir, you are also at Token, and you look great. What's the secret?
A lot of sleep. No, I got back like 5 days ago, so I'm recovered.
Well, it's an honor, sir, for you to join us here as the first guest on the show. A quick disclaimer before we get into things. I need to remind you that the views or opinions of our contributors today are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the companies they are representing. Nothing we say should be taken as tax, financial, investment, or legal advice. Do your own research. And lastly, before we get into the stats, I'm thrilled to remind you that the podcast is made possible by Visa and powered by Artemis. Gentlemen, both of you were at Token 2049, and I, of course, did not go. I was sitting at home coloring charts in, as I always do, but it seemed like there was a lot of stablecoin talk. David, what was your impressions of it? How did the conference compare to previous years?
I thought it was great. Definitely busier with the growth and just like the recent expansion of the ecosystem, right? The acquisitions, the IPOs that we've been seeing. So for PayPal and PYUSD, we've obviously, and we could talk about this, later, but we've obviously grown a lot. People are asking questions on, how and why and, what our focus is. And I think a lot of the feedback has been around, PayPal just having this big brand that can extend into PYUSD. So when you think about what, PayPal is really best at, a lot of the conversations around payments, but it's also around on and off ramps. It's connectivity to local bank accounts. And I think people were asking a lot of questions around like, why aren't you sort of like, you should be, focusing on that more and they're dead right. And we are. So when we talk about like on and off ramps, expanding PYUSD access into more countries, into more bank accounts and, everywhere PayPal is. And that's something that we're focusing on a lot. And that's one of the biggest takeaways that I had from the conference.
What was the best party? Because it seemed like you just partied all the time from the pictures you sent me.
I was trying to be a good founder and focused on work. And so I went to bed early every day. I'm getting to the age where I feel like the getting a good night's sleep is way more pleasant than partying.
That's fair. Someone's gotta answer the emails and the Telegram messages.
But yeah, I mean, for me, I think the biggest reflection actually happened the day after on the flight back from Token 2049. One of my best friends from Harvard Business School, he is the biggest skeptic of crypto. When we started Artemis, he was like, this is like so dumb, like it just doesn't make sense. And he messaged me saying that, hey, like Anthony, I was completely wrong. Like, it's like, I did not see the vision of crypto and now I see it. And I was like, wait, what do you mean? What happened? And he was like, stablecoins. And I just felt validated. And just, I mean, as starting a startup is super hard, and I think it's always there's definitely moments where you're like, oh wait, this is the right direction, especially like post FTX and all this stuff. And I think it's just like a really incredible feeling to like have gone through the trenches, and then like now on the other side we're starting to see everything like line up, and so like I think that kind of summarizes, I feel like, what happened at the token this past year is like everything was about stablecoins, just like stablecoins, like, and it's legit companies like PayPal, Stripe, and more like actually building, right? It's not just like grifting anymore, and so we've come so far, and I'm just incredibly proud of like everyone in the space and all the different folks who are building, and yeah, just super bullish in the future of crypto.
Yeah. Was there anything that surprised you, or was there anything that changed your mind? Was there anything that surprised you or changed your mind, David, coming out of Token?
I was surprising to see like so many different logos that I like don't even knew existed out there. Just so many new businesses and protocols that wanted to promote themselves. Like you'd go on the floor, and I remember like a year ago, most like 90% of those things, those logos are companies I didn't even know, like you didn't see back a year ago. So a lot of new companies starting up and wanting to showcase what they're doing, which is great to see. And yeah, I think there's a good amount of retail presence there, like good amount of like average people walking the floor, which is great to see, and wanting to learn more about stablecoins and just like the general crypto space, and how it's growing.
Amazing. That's awesome. Let's hop into data, shall we? We start off every month essentially by showing where we are in terms of stablecoin supply. And this past, we're actually over $300 billion in supply right now. But this past month, we crossed over $300 billion in supply for the first time, up 72% year over year. And this is actually accelerating. Growth rates are accelerating from the previous month in terms of supply. And you'll notice a very small little color on the top of our chart right here. And that is the launch of Plasma. And to really show how this is trending and to show you the absolute craziness of Plasma launching. Plasma, which is a new layer 1 blockchain that has gotten investment from Tether, partnered with Binance, added $6.2 billion in supply month over month. Ethereum continues to be the king, of course, adding $11 billion in supply. But what really surprised me down here is Tron. Essentially, we saw $5.2 billion flow out of Tron into ecosystems like Plasma, onto Solana. Solana gained about $2 billion. I'll start with David. David, I mean, there's been a lot of new layer ones being announced. Tempo, Plasma, you name it. Kind of like, what are your thoughts on these new chains, and where do you think their best sources of opportunity are?
I think it's really cool. I mean, Plasma has obviously exploded on the scene. I think it's the whole like concept of like the stable chain, I guess you can call it, where you had Plasma, you have Tempo, you have Arc as well, and Plasma has really set the stage here, just with the crazy growth that we're seeing. I think it's like most of that's on Aave being borrowed out. So Aave and then USDTs being on Plasma is being borrowed and used in the ecosystem, which is awesome to see. I think it's really smart. Like they're focused on USDT. Like USDT doesn't really have a native chain. I think that's purposeful. Like Tether probably doesn't want to place any bets on yet, at least, right? We don't know what's going to happen, but they want to proliferate their stablecoin everywhere, which makes sense. And I think PYUSD we would probably say the same thing. So I think it's smart what Plasma did and what the other chains are doing, like USDC on Arc, probably a reasonable like next driver of growth for them, being a public company now, and they've got to find ways to grow. So that makes sense for them.
When PayPal chain? I'm just kidding.
We don't, we're exploring a lot of different things. I think there's a lot of things we have to do, like, before, if we ever launch a chain or before that, we have a lot of work cut out for us right now, and we can get into more, but the not in sight right now. PayPal chain. We want PYUSD everywhere. We don't want to like pick our own chain as our favorite. So.
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense.
What do you guys think about this concept of like high transaction fees? So, I mean, what obviously like really jumps out to me here is Tron losing $5.2 billion in supply. And David, you mentioned that a lot of right now Plasma is DeFi enabled on Aave and whatnot. But yeah, I guess, do you think that people now are starting to shift to payments because we have these much lower chains that offer almost zero transaction costs?
Yeah, I think that's like a reasonable thing to think. I think we've had low transaction fees for a while. Like, I mean, Solana is Solana PYUSD launched on Solana with our focus was around just like everyday payments, so low transaction fees. But now you've got like this whole notion of gasless like it's free, and that's really cool. So I think that piece that we're moving towards is going to be important for payments, even more so. Even though Solana is like could be pennies, you never know what's going to happen with the chain. It could see a lot of congestion, whatever. But when they have dedicated space for these new chains having dedicated space for gasless transactions, that's really interesting, and that's something that PayPal's definitely looking at. And we'll see how that plays out. And then back to USDT, it's just like it makes a lot of sense for these chains to have to build a home for USDT. So gasless transactions is one of the ways they can differentiate.
So looking at biggest gainers month over month in supply, we can see Tether added an additional 6.7 billion, where even though a lot of supply flew out of Tron, it actually was redistributed to chains like Plasma and Ethereum. And then if we look a little further down, we have PYUSD. David, look at you right here, adding $1.3 billion in supply. And well, that's actually almost more than 100% growth month over month. David, can you enlighten us on what's leading to your guys' success this month?
Yeah, I think just generally like over the past, it's sort of a long story, but over the past 6 to 8 months with the reinvigoration of the refocus of PayPal in the space, with the IP, the Circle IPO, everything going on with acquisitions, our team has just had a renowned focus on PYUSD, and we're being very thoughtful and tactical on how we deploy, our budget, incentives in the space. We're choosing like specific partners that we think will create lasting demand and sort of sticky supply for PYUSD. And the hope and the goal is that we're going to grow PYUSD supply and demand and liquidity in the ecosystem, as PayPal builds out some products, and launches in new countries for PYUSD settlement and on and off ramps, to sort of like meet that new supply that we create out in the ecosystem with PayPal demand, and organic demand. So I think one of the interesting things is PayPal has the distribution already. We've already built out sort of like we have 400 million users, 35 million merchants. So we've built out that connectivity to local fiat and local bank accounts. We've been doing that for 25 years. The brand's pretty ubiquitous across the globe. And so that, to me, really like that's what, everyone's trying to get after is the distribution to non-crypto native users. And when you look at like Circle, what Circle's trying to do, what Tether's trying to do, Circle with their payments network, we already have that established. What we're lacking is the liquidity and the on-chain sort of availability of PYUSD, so that when we go to our merchant base and they all want to use, they're all talking to us about stablecoins now, we can suggest and we can effectively like have products around PYUSD support because there's liquidity out there for them to on and off ramp in the ecosystem. And that's one of the things that we're focusing on primarily is just growing that liquidity out there. And we're doing it through many different ways, one of which are, incentives out there, but also like, creating organic lasting PayPal demand with products that we're going to roll out over the near future.
Yeah, and I wanna jump ahead actually a little bit because we have a chart here of stablecoin supply of PYUSD over time, and you can see it's a little flat in between October to June 2025, but then all of a sudden, almost everything starts spiking. So
Yeah.
you see Spark, Camino, Athena is now even diversified. But you also see what I found was super interesting is this purple line, which is Paxos, which probably indicates some organic usage of PYUSD as well. So it really seems like everything is increasing at exactly the right time. And you're seeing this kind of both organic use of PYUSD and in DeFi.
Yeah. Yeah, we're taking. I guess we'll take credit again for the the stablecoin bull run, just like we, just like in 2020 when we launched our crypto product, like the ability to buy and sell tokens. There was also a bull run. No, I'm kidding. We won't do that. But the yeah the our growth. Obviously our growth is on a lot of these different applications that you have listed here. And when I mentioned like the strategy that we're running, a lot of it has to do with money market, decentralized money market apps like Aave, Camino, Spark, to entrench PYUSD, to create flywheel growth, to borrow PYUSD and use it out in the ecosystem. We feel like that's a really good strategy. And then Athena tapped us to support to activate PYUSD as collateral for USDE, which is basically just like is diversifying their their applicable collateral for the stablecoin, which for their stablecoin, which totally makes sense. I mean, it's definitely smart on their end just to diversify. And layer zero, we've seen some growth. We just launched, and we're going to roll this out over the next few weeks, PYUSD 0, which lets PYUSD be bridged to any chain that Layer 0 supports through their like OFT standard, which just like creates more addressable market for us out there. And all the many chains want us to issue natively, which totally makes sense. And we can't do every chain native, so this is kind of like a way to serve that need, and see how the PYUSD and the branding does permissionlessly out there, with on any chain, and see how we can perform. So, really excited about all those activations.
So, David, like we've said before, we've seen as actually a really healthy organic supply increase of PYUSD on centralized exchanges. I'm curious where you guys are seeing increased adoption of stablecoins, and are there any regions that pop out to you as being prime for stablecoin adoption?
Yeah. I think it matches closely with like where you're seeing, most stablecoin adoption. Latin America is a big market for PayPal, and just accessibility to hold stablecoins. We bring accessibility to hold stablecoins with PYUSD because people know PayPal, they know the brand, they're comfortable, and their local currency may not be the best. So the biggest use case I think we all know is like just holding. It's easier to hold dollars in some of these countries where the currency isn't as strong, and that's where PayPal. That's one of our biggest strategies, really. But that's where PayPal can see the most adoption. Is just like you log into your PayPal account, you can buy PYUSD, for free, in the app, and then just hold it. And it's just much easier to like buy stable coins than get access to like fiat dollars, I think, around the world. And we'll see how long that lasts. But that's the biggest use case for us in some of these emerging markets like Latin America. But we are we're in like over 100 countries. But there's certain countries that PayPal's not as popular in for payments, and not as popular in from an app perspective. Like not many people use the app. And we think that the narrative is like PYUSD and stablecoins will bring us a lot of net new users in some of these countries that know the PayPal brand, but there's like better options for them for payments in that country. So they don't like necessarily need to use it or want to use it. But now with the stablecoin and being free to get in and out of their local fiat or local bank account, they're maybe more willing to buy PYUSD, send it to friends and family, use it for cross-border transactions, business, B2B payments, all these like top use cases, and ultimately, become, PayPal users and more frequent users.
Interesting. So it's almost like the first interaction with PayPal some customers could have is through blockchain and blockchain technology.
Absolutely. Like in many of these countries, we have the PayPal app, but the services are limited in the country relative to another country. Just because of our licensing and what we can offer. So like PYUSD, can be available, and we want to make it available as sort of like the homepage, the front screen of what you see, when you log into the app. So it's going to be interesting.
Wow, very cool. And finally, Anthony Yim, famous for sending me whiteboard terrible sketches, which are completely illegible to me. I woke up this morning and I saw this. Not applicable to our business, though. Can you please explain to the people at home what this is?
Yeah, well, I mean, this was like a product planning session I did with a bunch of product managers from Venmo back in like 2013. And if you really squint, you can see a whole bunch of like terms like cash out and peer to peer and balances and so for the audience's members that don't know this, I was an early engineer at Venmo. I started there back in 2013, ended up staying there for 6 years, and of course Venmo was then acquired by PayPal. And so it's just really cool. It's really cool to like have to come back full circle where we're chatting with David from PayPal here, and of course like I don't think PayPal was doing much crypto stuff when I left. About the time I left in 2019, and it's really cool to see like PayPal go all into crypto now, and so I think the question I wanted to ask is like what we see a lot of new features around crypto and Venmo that happened after I left, especially like being able to save. You can hold PYUSD and earn interest on the Venmo app, and plus there's that new announcement from PayPal again a couple of weeks ago on PayPal World, where every Venmo and PayPal account are now connected. So I'd love to hear from David, like what's the vision there? Like, what are you most excited about with like Venmo and crypto in the future? Because like I was never part of that, and it's cool to see you guys like really innovating in that space.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Venmo is like such a popular app in the US. It's pretty crazy. It's so easy to like pay friends and cash out, and kudos
And
to
also
you.
actually
Yeah.
around the world too. Actually, that's like a sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah.
like everywhere I go, I'm like, hey, if I'm like traveling in Asia or Europe, and I actually mention Venmo, people actually know what Venmo is, even though they can't even use the app. I think that's the part that's like the most sort of
It's
crazy
almost
to me.
like becoming a bigger brand than PayPal
Yeah,
for places. Yeah.
yeah.
Which is, obviously we have, that's an interesting thing for us to think about. But yeah, the PYUSD integration of Venmo is just like a very natural thing. It was a natural fit for us. And obviously we offer rewards there as well, 4% in rewards to hold PYUSD balances. So, people hold a lot of balance on Venmo when they pay their friends. Some people use it as like a quasi bank, or it's not a bank, but they use it as a account. And ultimately, like you can just transfer your balance really easily over to PYUSD and earn 4%. And that was our goal with that. I think it's like actually hitting harder with Coinbase changing their reward structure recently. So excited to see like if people come over to Venmo and like, earn the rewards and then, continue to pay friends and not have to leave the ecosystem. But yeah, you mentioned PayPal World and like the things we're doing on connecting like all the dots, all the applications. And, Venmo and PayPal, I think it's like kind of maybe a little bit of a running joke, but we finally have integrated the two apps where you can like move, your Venmo balance to your PayPal balance. And, it actually coincidentally started with the PYUSD support, because that's like de facto sort of like back in the day, the way you could just move your Venmo balance to PayPal because both supported PYUSD and you can just like do an on-chain transaction. But now it's very much connected. PayPal World is like super exciting, and I think the stablecoin fits like very nicely into that narrative, because now you're linking like the major destinations of money movement to your PayPal app. And like obviously stablecoins, what's a better instrument to settle that transaction? So you have like exposure of, many millions of PayPal users to move money to, I think we just activated the first one, which was a bank in India. Right now you can like move dollars to a bank in India, or like your friends and family in India. Don't quote me on that. I don't know exactly how it works. I have to probably do a little more research, but PYUSD obviously would be like the best settlement engine for that, to either pre-fund a transaction or like just settle directly. And then now you've got like, a lot of pressure on that destination, which is probably a very large, a large player in the, in the cross-border space, to support PYUSD, because they're going to get so much demand from PayPal to want to send transactions through PayPal World. So it's a very good strategy from the team to launch that alongside the stablecoin.
Yeah, it seems like it almost like now that you have stablecoins and you're able to settle transactions, gain yield, do all these things in, like almost like one product, if you will, the opportunity space becomes so much bigger. Before you were only saying like, okay, it's just a P2P app, I can only send something. But now we're seeing, companies attaching credit cards, yield, sending across border, not just like in the United States. And so, yeah, it seems to me like it's just stablecoins, one product, but now it just enables, 15 different banking products, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And just to clarify, we integrated with the unified payments interface in India. So it's like basically like you can, it's just like an easier connection to move fiat cross borders. And then that will be like, you have to like link your India like local bank account or local account to get the cash, the fiat. So it's a big corridor for us as well. So.
Yeah, and one thing we're seeing this a lot in data of like how stablecoins are kind of transforming and becoming different banking products, and even changing the nature of banking in general, or sending money in general. So, for example, MiniPay, an app that launched in Africa that's owned by Opera. They rolled out MiniPay in, I believe it was September 2023. Just celebrated their 2-year anniversary, so congratulations to them. But you can see we're looking at stablecoin transactions on the Celo network, and we're pretty flat. And then all of a sudden, MiniPay launches, and it goes from about $1 million per month to peaked at 175 million a month, and is now like near $150 million a month. I'm actually curious, Anthony, of getting your thoughts on this slide, because for better or for worse, now with Venmo, if I borrow a tissue from you, I can send you 32 cents for the actual tissue, and you see at bars now, people are like, oh, I'll cover that $4 beer for you. But yeah, I'm curious your thought. Like, does this make sense that now that you have like such faster and essentially zero fee transactions, that the velocity of transactions exponentially increases?
Yeah. I think the conversation with David in the last couple of minutes really reminded me of what our good friend Nick Carter says about stablecoins and crypto, which is that it's Starlink for finance, right? And so really, like, we're seeing, I think we as Americans here just like are not aware of like how bad financial tools are in the rest of the world, and like finally we have this thing that allows everybody literally with an internet connection to partake in finance and payments, and we're like seeing that before our eyes at a rate that's much faster than I could possibly imagine. Like I could not, this was not happening like a year ago. Like, and so I think I'm still like in shock.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, even like, this is very crazy to me. And so here we're looking at, so Rain, a company that recently raised their Series B, we were doing some smart contract sleuthing over the weekend and could now see that Rain's estimated card spend across different networks is approaching $100 million a month from about $1 million a month a year and a half ago. And yeah, I mean, what's pretty like interesting to me is like if you look at these countries where a lot of these credit card products are seeing the biggest uptick. So David talked about UPI in India, and so here we're seeing EtherFi, which actually uses Rain for its credit cards. About 13% of their traffic is from India. And then you have companies like Red Dot Pay, where you're seeing, okay, Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, Indonesia. So you're like really seeing like these emerging market countries adopting these credit card products because there's while they have like some infrastructure, it's almost like crypto is now their first product or their first foray into the card world. And we're also seeing like, and obviously not surprisingly, we're seeing a lot of these transactions spend on these like low cost chains like Polygon here. Scroll is another ZK powered blockchain that has extremely low transactions. So yeah, does this make sense to everybody that, or does this, I'm curious, David, does this, reflect what you guys are seeing at PayPal, where a lot of these emerging market countries are, astonishingly seeing uptake of these products?
Yeah, I know it definitely does. I mean, just you think about it, taking a step back, like a lot of these are, permissionless like apps that offer like that Rain lets you issue a card off of, which is kind of crazy to think about. Like you have, you can borrow stable coins and then, ultimately get like an off ramp for it with a debit card or some sort of card. Which I think is like why you're seeing such a big uptake, because it's just so much easier to do and easier to like play around with. And so I think I need to look more into Scroll. That's interesting, the growth there. I didn't know that.
Yeah, EtherFi totally taken over the Scroll chain. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Through EtherFi. Right. And EtherFi, yeah, that's, they're obviously very successful. I know, like they're I think Rain is one of the biggest, they're one of the biggest, I think, card issuers, like, and they've executed like super well on this strategy. I think PayPal can like take a big lesson from this, because we don't really do cards that well. I think we have cards, but like, I think like it's not, maybe not as competitive in my mind as other products out there. And I think when you think about stablecoins and creating like permissionless structures around cards, it could get pretty interesting. So
yeah, exactly. And yeah, like you said, like permissionless chains, as long as you have a smartphone, access to stablecoins,
yeah,
you can easily get started and spend.
You don't need an address; you can just get on your phone.
Yeah, exactly. So finally, we have to end with AI because everyone's talking about it. But I think this actually represents something interesting where we're kind of seeing like the third leg of this stablecoin increases banking like products, where you have stablecoins that you can send to people on MiniPay, on PayPal, on Venmo. You can also do card spend, but you can also access yield now in extremely unique ways. So here, what we're looking at is a chart of USD AI, which is a company that lends out money to almost like neoclouds or GPU farms. And so the idea here is that maybe instead of having these like private credit like opportunities where private credit funds loan to different neoclouds, you can actually do this through a stablecoin. And if you're just like on your on your app within your phone, you can almost like access these private credit like opportunities. Anthony, this USD AI represents this very unique yield opportunity for stablecoins. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah. My initial thought is that actually, and this ties back to my other learning sort of takeaway from token, is that these are actually not like really stable coins anymore. Like stable coins were always, in my mind, like a Trojan horse and like the first use case for crypto. But really, like, this is just tokenized private credit. That is literally what it is. It's just sort of labeled as stablecoin because obviously you can hold USD AI, and I believe it's pegged to the US dollar. But then there's the SUSD AI, which is a stake version that goes up in price as it accrues yield. And so I think, to me, this is a really, really exciting development. The space where we're just seeing maturation of finance on chain. It's going from cash, USDT, USDC, PYUSD, to something that is not used for payments, and it's actually just private credit on chain that anyone can partake in, as long as you have an on-chain wallet and an internet connection. And so I'm just very, very excited to see this is the future of credit, for anything. It doesn't matter whether it's AI or infrastructure or. And it's wild because this is in some ways deepened too. It's deepened in a very different way. But ultimately, what's hard about infrastructure is that it's very costly. It's high capex, and now you have this crypto solution that lets you raise money from anyone in the world to pay for your infrastructure capex costs. That's insane. That's incredible. And we're here now in 2025, look seeing it happening in real life.
Yeah. David, well, thanks so much for joining us today. Where can people find more about you and PYUSD?
Yeah. Well, if you want to follow me on X at Weber Gems, one being Weber, feel free to hit a follow. And if you want to discuss PYUSD and potentially partnering, you can find me on LinkedIn and shoot me a note.
And Anthony, how about you? Where can people find more about yourself?
You can find me on X. My handle is Anthony Yim, ANTHONYYM. And of course, you can find about Artemis on artemis.xyz.
And finally, Anthony Yim, you will be speaking at FinTech NerdCon November 19th. And what will you be speaking on, sir?
Yeah, so at FinTech NerdCon, I'm going to be presenting a updated data set from our super popular stablecoin payments survey from over the summer. We're going to be presenting a new update to it to see how far we've come along in 2025 on stablecoin payments. So come see me in Miami, and we'd love to meet you. And see you all soon.
Well, thanks, everyone. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to Tokenized on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you podcast. And finally, if you enjoyed the show and want more, leave us a review. It legit helps others find the show. Stay stable, everyone.